This happened about a year ago. There were so many terrible factors working against me that night. I'm astounded I got away unscathed, at least physically. This all begins when I'm at my friend's apartment, who lives in a really rough part of town. In a series of poor decisions, that night I decide to get belligerently drunk and take a few pills of God knows what. I know. Safe to say, after a solid night of partying, around 4 a.m. I was not in the right state of mind. My drug-addled brain decides that instead of staying the night at my friend's apartment like I normally would, I wanted to Uber back to my own apartment. My friend's apartment had two separate entrances/exits to the building, one in the back, unlit, parking lot of the building, and one facing the street. They had two sets of keys for each door, and I only had keys to the one in the back of the apartment. Since my Uber would obviously arrive at the street, and the door in the front of the building locks itself behind you, I exited this way when the driver was soon to arrive. Looking back, standing outside that apartment, I realize I looked like the easiest target on the planet. I'm a small petite female in my early 20s, and I can hardly stay upright. I'm using a street lamp to prop myself up, and not doing a good job at that either. The light was basically a beacon for any nearby predators saying, "Come get me." I'm not paying attention to my surroundings at all in this state, despite the fact that there was literally a bullet hole in the front door I just came out of. Not good. I remember checking to see what car I was getting picked up in, and was only able to pick out the fact that it was a black sedan. Soon after stepping outside, a black sedan pulls up to the curb, and starts rolling down the window, so I step forward. Before this man even spoke, I could feel something was wrong. He had an expression like he was tearing me apart with just his eyes. After seeing that look, it gave me a new meaning to the word predator to describe a criminal, because I then knew what it felt like to be prey. He basically barks at me, "I'm your Uber driver." This was the second red flag that somehow made its way through my brain. Normally Uber drives just roll down the window and say, "Fossil Fool 12?" Or any version of that, but always including your name. I think I just stared at him for a second, my brain slowly piecing together the situation I was potentially in, and I asked him, "What's my name?" He immediately is enraged, and starts screaming about how he doesn't have time for this and just get in the car, etc. 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 I don't think I've ever sobered up so fast in my life. I'm completely panicking. Obviously this wasn't my Uber. Quickly checking the license plate, I immediately see it's not a match. Meanwhile, this guy is still screaming at me, and I have absolutely no idea what to do. If I bolt in either direction, this guy could easily outrun me or have a weapon. I'm also pretty sure at this point that if he's trying to nab a random girl of the street, he must have a weapon of some sort. I can't run back into the apartment door right behind me since it locks behind you, and I don't have the keys, nor the time to unlock it. Running towards the back door would do nothing as well, as he's idling right by the mouth of the driveway towards the back parking lot, and again, I would have to take the time to find the right keys and get in. If I screamed, I'm not exactly in the type of neighborhood where someone would try to be a vigilante, and I can still hear the music radiating from my friend's third-floor apartment. I knew they wouldn't hear me. Also, it's 4 a.m. and absolutely no one is around. People talk a lot on this sub how they either sprint into action or freeze, but I felt incapable of doing either. It was the absolute worst feeling I've ever felt in my life. Everything in me wanted to run, but I felt that if I did it would be the end of me. But if I kept standing there, staring in shock at this screaming man, the result would be the same. From when he started screaming at me to this point, I'm guessing only 20 seconds has passed by. Just as he's looking like he's getting ready to get out of the car, another black sedan pulls up right behind him. Checking the license plate as quickly as I can, I realize it's my actual Uber and make a full sprint to the car, really only like 6 steps, and throw myself in, screaming at my real Uber driver, "What's my name?" The poor dude looks terrified, but responds with my name quickly, to which I reply, "Get me the out of here, that man is trying to kidnap me." If I was in this Uber driver's position, I think I would be too shocked to react as quickly as he did, but my dude flew out of there, offered to call the cops for me, which I declined, and now regret, and then walked me to the front door of my apartment, ensuring I got inside safely. Truly an incredible human being. You can rest easy knowing he got the fattest tip my college student bank account would allow for, although he deserved much, much more. So, to the man who ruined my sense of security and caused countless anxiety attacks when out in public for months, let's not meet. This happened about 2 years ago, in my second year at university. I was 20. For context, I'm French, So if anything's weird about how I describe uni experience, that's why. At the time, I lived in a government-owned apartment building, 3rd floor. My direct neighbor was my younger sister, who was studying in the same university as I did. One other thing important to the story is that I'm disabled. My right leg is useless after an accident when I was 13 and I suffer from debilitating chronic pain, to a degree that keeps me bedridden and nonverbal unless I take a twice-a-day dosage of prescribed morphine. All of that is important details, bear with me. When I take my medication, I'm able to leave my bed. On the worst days, I have to either use a wheelchair or a cane to get around. Isn't it great that we lived on the 3rd floor of a building with no elevator? On top of that, as you might guess, morphine is a very strong pain medication. It screws with your visual and hearing perception, it makes you sleepy and dizzy, lessens your reflexes, numbs your nervous system, makes you paranoid. You get the idea. At the time, I had only been taking morphine for less than 6 months, after 10 years of various other pain medication, and I was still dealing with the side effects in full force. Most of them are gone now. So for me, that meant mainly auditory hallucinations, sleepiness, dizziness and bad reflexes/nervous response. At that point, I had gotten used to hearing stuff that wasn't there, mostly clapping noises, clicking noises, small things ultimately. I never hallucinated human voices. That night, I had gone out to the center of the city to meet with friends. This was a rare occasion for me, and I do mean rare. I didn't go out more than once every 2 months or so, for multiple reasons that my friends, bless them, understood perfectly. Morphine means no drinking, so that's half the fun of going to the bar removed from the start. Despite the very useful nature of the meds, I was still I'm in a tremendous amount of pain if I stand for more than a couple of minutes, and I was sure to do a lot of that at the bar, plus walking back from the bus stop to my building, about a 5 minutes walk. But I went anyway, like I did exceptionally. For a few days, there had been rumors going around about a group that was going around kidnapping people from my uni. From memory, 2 girls had disappeared already, and it was suspected that a blue van was the vehicle used. Those reports were circulating on our majors group and on the uni's group as well, about the same details each time, but my friends and I were skeptical, mostly about the blue van, because we didn't believe the van would still be running around if the information had spread enough that we were hearing about it on Facebook, you know? Not that I was thinking about any of that as I came back from the bar, around midnight, early, I know, but I was in a lot of pain and the bus stops at midnight, and missing it would mean waking up my sister so she could pick me up at the tram station, since I was physically unable to walk the 20 minutes required. I got into the bus, only 3 people were there and none got out at my bus stop. Now bear in mind that I was in an extreme amount of pain, so much that my vision was blurring out on the edges and I was swaying a bit from side to side, trying to minimize the weight being put on my leg. On top of that, I had just taken a fast-working morphine dose, to help me get through the 5 minutes walk back to my building, and unlike my twice-a-day high dose, those pills I could take to my discretion, whenever I needed a quick relief. The downside of that very practical pill, is that it basically knocks you out in 30 minutes. You get so sleepy you can barely keep your eyes open, and basically, you're high for about 20 minutes before either passing out or getting through it and it gets better after a while. I get out of the bus. On my right is a parking lot in front of a bakery, with a lot of cars. It's normal, because there are a lot of government-owned student flats around that block, and that's where most of them park, so I'm not concerned. The road I take is straight from where the bus dropped me off, for the whole walk before my building is to the right, a couple of parking spots in front of it and a wheelchair slope going to a magnetic door. You need your magnetic student ID to open the door, then a key to the specific door to your building. As I walk by the parking lot, I see movement in the corner of my eye. But since I'm half out of it from pain and meds, I don't turn to look at it. I hear some noise, and I just assume I'm hallucinating it so I keep on walking. But then, the street lights reflect on a car window, and I don't know why that made me turn around. My brain was catching on to weird stuff. So I briefly look to the side, and I see an old, beat-up white car, pretty long and low to the ground. On the driver's seat is an Algerian man, in his mid-50s. The neighborhood being half students, half France-born Algerian, the thing that gives me pause is more the fact that there's someone awake, in the front seat of a car, at 1 in the morning. But again, I'm out of it, so I don't question it. I don't even stop walking because at this point, my only thought is put one foot in front of the other. There you go, you're almost there, you're almost done with the pain. Literally all my attention, my focus, was on putting one foot after the other, because of the debilitating pain. I walk past the small roundabout to my left, still going straight, when I hear a car starting. I don't know why that was the thing that slapped me in the face, but suddenly, I was worried. My heart was beating fast, probably half the meds and half the fear. But also, I was well aware that morphine tends to make me paranoid, so I tried to calm down. I see the headlights coming from behind me, drawing a long shadow in front of me. In a second, I run through the calculations. I'm still about 300 meters, 1,000 feet says Google, from my building. Then I need to get my ID out and open the door. A slow, automatic, magnetic door. I can't run. I can barely walk. I'm up to the head in morphine. It's the middle of the night, I'm alone, with no residential building close enough to hear a scream. That's when I start to panic. I'm right to do so. The car catches up to me, slows down to my walking speed. I notice that the man isn't alone in the car anymore. Someone is in the passenger seat, and there's movement in the back, but I don't turn my head because I try to pretend I didn't notice them slowing down. I had my earphones in, with no music, as I didn't turn it back on after the bus ride. I just keep walking, hoping with everything I have that they'll leave me alone. I'm trying to walk faster, but I'm in so much pain a few tears fall down. I can hear that they're calling for my attention, but not what they're saying. Finally, I see the lane going up to my building. I take my backpack off and I shove my hand down the front pocket, fumbling because my nervous response is bad, thanks meds, and I can't feel my fingers, and I'm shaking like crazy. I can't find my ID. At that point, I'm close to a panic attack, my heart is beating too fast and I'm feeling close to fainting, from the combined pain and terror. I turn to face the wheelchair slope when I see, from the corner of my eye, the car stopping abruptly right next to the slope and the car door slamming open. I don't know how I did it, because I was close to fainting, but I managed to run the last 10 feet to the door and slap my ID on the reader, yelling at the door to open faster. I could hear people running behind me. The door finally opened enough for me to slip in and I slammed it shut behind me. I heard the men run into the door with a loud noise, and them cursing, then yelling things to me. I didn't stick around to hear what they had to say. I fumbled with my keys to the point of almost dropping them before opening the door to my flat complex. I got inside on shaky legs and as soon as the door closed behind me, I dropped to the floor and had the worst panic attack of my life. When I managed to put myself back together and painstakingly climbed the 3 flights of stairs, I crawled into my sister's flat. We left our doors open for each other for precisely those circumstances, and woke her up, telling her the whole story. She told me later I was deathly pale, so much that I scared her enough that she offered for me to share her single bed that night. I couldn't refuse. The worst part is, this isn't the end of the story. My sister went out to bars a lot more than I did, as she's able-bodied and drop-dead gorgeous. About 3 weeks later, she called me in the middle of the night, as she was coming back from a bar. She had seen the exact car I described in the parking lot at the bus stop. She didn't stop to see if there was anyone inside, she reacted and sprinted to our building. Of course, she was a lot faster than my drugged, disabled ass, so she made it to the door where I was waiting for her, having it opened from the inside, just as the car stopped in the lane. After that, we left a note on our flat complex's door to explain everything to other people, posted about it on every university group we knew of, and we contacted the police, who helpfully told us they could do nothing without catching them on the act, but that they'd probably send someone to patrol, as it matched the reports they had gotten that sparked the whole blue van rumors in the first place. In the following year it took to finish my degree, neither me nor my sister saw those men or their car again. But we still hear from people the same kind of story being shared, from other parts of the city. As far as we can tell, they're still active, and 2 years later, I'm still disturbed by it. This happened back when I was around 13 to 14, I'm now 21 and a female. I live in Mexico, Jalisco specifically, and during that time there was this sort of kidnapping epidemic going on. You just have to look at the news to see Mexico has never been a kind country to women, to say the least. Human trafficking, kidnapping, femicides are all too common in the news since I have memory. I've always been pretty independent, and I also used to be a pretty boyish girl in my teens. I had very low self-esteem, always considered myself the ugly duckling, and used to wear my brown hair short and spiky, oversized shirts, and big shorts or jeans along with sneakers, also no makeup. If you saw me by the corner of your eye, you could easily think I was a 12-year-old boy. A lot of people used to confuse me like that. Picture Hiro Hamada, from Big Hero 6. I am not trans, I just had a lot of internalized misogyny and no confidence to dress feminine. One day, my mom, Aunt and me wanted to go out to dinner near downtown, but I wanted to see some stores beforehand, so we accorded I would go first, visit the stores I wanted to see, then catch up to my mom and Aunt at the restaurant. I was walking down the street, already seen the stores I wanted and on my way to see my family, when suddenly I felt a hand on my wrist stop me in my tracks. I looked up to a man, possibly late 20s or early 30s, light-skinned, blonde curly hair and blue eyes. He looked like a tourist, but spoke like he had lived here his whole life. "Excuse me, sorry if I'm bold, but I think you're very pretty and want to buy you a coffee." I was very weirded out. Like I said, I thought of myself as nothing more than plain and ugly, boyish, and easily looked 3 or more years younger thanks to the anorexia making me tiny. I just shook my head, confused and without wanting to speak, but he didn't let go of my wrist. "Please, what is your name? You're very pretty, I really want to have a date with you." He was very persistent, not caring that the street was packed with people and it was still broad daylight. After all, no one seemed concerned with the odd sight going on. Again, I refused without speaking. I just knew he wasn't being truthful because my low self-esteem told me so, and I thanked her. "Come on. Just one date. After all, you're here alone, right? No one is waiting for you, right? No one is gonna notice if you come away with me, right?" He was talking faster now, his friendly demeanor starting to falter and his grip on my wrist becoming tighter. Then I looked behind him. In a bench two big, bulky men started to stand up and walk towards us. I didn't know if they wanted to help me or him, and I didn't stay to find out. Since my wrist and arm was so small, I managed to pull my arm free and sprint off. I ran as fast as I possibly could, not even looking back to see if him or the men came after me until about 4 blocks, my lungs burning, but none of them were anywhere to be found, thankfully. Again, no one around me seemed to notice or care, and honestly neither did I. I just walked to the restaurant to find my mom and aunt. I never told any of them, afraid my mom wouldn't let me go out by my own again. A week or so after that, the news of a girl around 13 being abducted in that same street started circulating. No witnesses, broad daylight. She was found around a month later. Well, her body was. I'm pretty sure I could have been in that girl's place, if I had been dumb and confident enough to take up that man's offer, if I didn't break free, if those men caught me. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like the video and subscribe.